Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mireille Nicole, relationship coach, and I am so excited to be here today with the amazing Alina Grayson. Hello.
Hello, guys.
So we're going to talk today all about relationships and manifesting your dream man. Because Alina, I've been following her a long time. I have worked with Alina, and she has an amazing love story, relationship story. So I am so excited to share this with you today and have her talk a little bit, give us some tips and some advice on how she sees loves, some things that can help you watching today in your own love life. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Alina to let us know who she is, what she does, what led her down that path, and what is your relationship status, Alina?
Okay, well, I'm Alina Grayson, and we were just talking about how I'm a life and business coach because you need both. And my relationship status right now is I am engaged to my dream man that I manifested, which I can't wait to talk to you guys about. But yeah, I started coaching online about almost 3.5 years ago. It's like 3.5 years ago since actually I separated from my ex. No, it would be 3.5 years ago that I separated from my ex, and I left with my 2 little girls, and I started this business in debt. But I believed in it. I believed in this work. I believed in self-development. I had struggled while I had my daughters with me and my ex were having relationship issues, and then I was having a little postpartum. And I was at home and I was lost in my career and I didn't know what to do. And coach and self-development came, and manifestation and all this stuff came to me through books and seeing people online. And I just went down a rabbit hole, and everything in my life started shifting, the way I felt about myself. And even though me and my partner didn't work out and he didn't really support this business, I did the single mom thing, and I invested money that I didn't have, and I started this business, and it just took off. And it was just sharing from my heart, like the things that worked for me, manifestation, like the subconscious stuff. And here we are, and I'm still running it organically. I just started, building out a website, but I have been multiple 5 figures to like a 6-figure a month, like completely organic, just sharing my life, doing master classes, and trusting that the people who are aligned with me, they're going to come in and just kind of add them. So I don't know if your next question is about how I manifested him, but
Yes,
we can go into.
but first, I'd like to just unpack a little bit some of the things you said there. And I love how you talked about, building this business as a single mama thing. I think that resonates a lot with women. And also, though, you said something really interesting about your ex. So, I mean, I'm not asking you to go deep into this personal history stuff, but you said something interesting about your ex not fully supporting this business. And again, I feel like some women can relate to that. So I don't know if you're open to sharing maybe a little bit more about that, maybe how your love life was a little bit before manifesting your current fiance. Then let's go into that fun part.
Okay, for sure. So I think anybody who has kids understands that relationships shift, right? The dynamic shift. And, I have a huge understanding now, the difference between feminine energy and mothering energy. And when you become a mom, you kind of take on this mothering energy. And a lot of us women, we think that mothering energy is feminine energy, and it is not. Because the second that you sound like pick up your shoes, wash your dishes, why is your clothes there? Listen to how you sound. This is masculine energy. So I was shocked when I learned this, but mothering energy is not feminine energy, but you would think it was, because when you think of feminine energy, you think of your mom, right? And the truth is, your mom didn't teach you feminine energy. She taught you how to be a mother. So I got into a very mothering energy, and he had started a business too. So I was in a very masculine energy, helping him with that, while also constantly in a mothering energy. And all I did was mother in masculine energy. And what happens is, then my ex had to kind of flip into feminine energy because I'm being so mothering, and then I lose that masculine energy that I desire, and the romance, and everything started to dwindle, and I was mothering him. And so I take a lot of responsibility now knowing this, right? There were other things that I'm not going to go into that didn't work, but and then I wanted to start this business, and I started working on that. So the whole relationship turned into me constantly being in masculine energy, mothering my kids, mothering my partner, then working on this business, trying to get this going. And so I completely lost my feminine touch. And, and then there was fighting, and there was other things that started coming up, because, if there's anything that will bring up your childhood wounds, it's your romantic relationships. And so we brought that out in each other. And, me also wanting to get outside the home to start this business, my ex didn't support it because he believes in the ideal mothering role where you stay home and you take care. Like, he wanted that for me. I didn't want that. I'm an ambitious woman. I did come from the corporate world, you know, and that wasn't for me. And I love being with my kids, but the stay-at-home mom thing was just, it wasn't for my ambitious energy, right? So yeah, things didn't work and he didn't support it. So that's when I decided, you know, I'm going to go do this on my own. And then I deep dived into understanding feminine energy. And that's when I was so shocked. And, you know, when you break up with someone, you blame a lot of them for everything that happened. But then I was like, oh my God, I completely just became his mother. And then I'm wondering why then he didn't want to do anything. And, you know, he reverted back into feminine energy because I just bossed him around, like mothering him around. And no one wants to get sexy when you're being their mom, you know, and I tell them this all the time. And like, when you're mothering your man, like, he doesn't want to get sexy with you because you're acting like his mom, and he already has a mom and he doesn't need that. So then I deep dive a lot into feminine energy. And then I started learning about this and it blew my mind. And I started working on my feminine energy. And I took a whole year, not even thinking about a man. I just focused on my daughters, growing this business, working on myself for a whole year. I didn't even like, and I'm always kind of one of those people who love romance in my life, but a whole year, I didn't even think of a man, didn't even look. There was no one coming in my inbox too, because I remember like Adam being like, oh, you must have had so many guys message. I'm like, never, 1-0, maybe because I was like there's a wall up, right? But I know deep down, I was like, I'm doing this work for myself. And then as I kept doing feminine energy, a year later, I remember it was like a year that I had been separated from my ex. I finally started feeling like I wanted romance. And this is actually recorded in a live. So I have a whole bunch of clients that can attest to this. I remember I think it was in Magnetic Mind. I was like, guys, I'm so ready for a man. I'm putting it out there. Like, I'm ready for romance. I really desire it. And I'm not joking you, like a week later, Adam just kind of swooped into my DMs and he's like, I noticed you're Polish. And I was like, I am. And then I noticed he went to my high school, but he's a little bit older, but I didn't remember him. And then we just started having conversation. And then we got together and it was just like, we've never been separated since. Like, it was complete chemistry and it was so beautiful. And I kept thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I manifested him. And there's things I'll talk about how I did that as well. But a big part of it was like first learning what actual feminine energy is, because like I said, we think it's our mom that teaches us that. She didn't teach you she teach you mothering energy. She taught you how to be a mother because all your mother did is mother you.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and a lot of us have a mother also that probably mothered the dad a lot. And then we think that, you know, our parents' relationship is the first time we see the duality between masculine and feminine energy. And we think that's what it is. Mommy's bossing daddy around, you know, daddy's being lazy. And it's like, because of this. And then I'm like, okay, I get it now. So yeah, and then we're here and we have the most amazing relationship and we just blended he has 2 kids, I have 2 kids together. And we were just talking about how like that's going amazing because a lot of people like telling you it's going to be hard. And I'm like, don't listen to them. Right. So here we are and I'm in love and it's like, it's just the most magical feeling. And even me and my ex's relationship is like been really good. And we're co-parenting and he's with a woman right now and they're having a baby. So yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy because I would never have thought that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, one of the things that really stood out for me in terms of what you were just sharing is the amount of radical self-responsibility you took for yourself, right? Like a lot of times when relationships ends, it can be really hard. It can be easy to look at what was going wrong from what the man's perspective was doing, but it's when we turn it around on ourselves in a way also not to, you know, self-judge or shame or blame ourselves, but looking at it from the perspective of, okay, you know, from an empowering stance, from the perspective of what can I do? What was my role in the relationship? What can I do moving forward to ensure or to help co-create a different outcome moving forward, right? And it seems like this really happened for you. Was there like a moment where it clicked, where it went from, you know, maybe more feeling sorry to feeling empowered again, or feeling like there's something I can do?
Yes, right. So you know how it is. And anybody who's just getting into self-development, when you get into it, it's just like you need to look yourself in the mirror, right? Like the truth is, even when someone has hurt us and have done things to us, the truth is we've entangled, right? I love that word, entangled. We did entangle with the relationship, right? And there's always something we've done too. So you know, if we're looking at like, I want to change things in my life, I want to change my relationships, I want to attract different things in my life. And it's like, you got to look yourself in the mirror, like everything responds to you. So it's like, okay, if everything's responding to me, then I have to deep dive on my own inner work and really look at like, why am I attracting these things? Why am I still repeating these patterns? And then it's looking at like, okay, I got to take radical self-responsibility. And I started looking at like, and it helped too. When I started learning about feminine energy, it really helped me to understand like, oh my God, I got this so backwards. And no wonder he felt like this, right? And then I took that radical responsibility, and like he, you know, he has his ownership as well. But I know like, and I just say this to clients all the time, like if we want to change things, you go first. You got to make a change. The second we change anything, whether it's a mindset, a belief, or actions, like things respond to us differently, right? So it's just like radical responsibility. If you want anything to change, you go first. You go first, and the universe responds, and the people respond to you differently. And that's been, yeah, like that. It's just look yourself in the mirror. It's just
Yeah.
us. God is here, and we entangle with people no matter how much they've hurt us. We chose to enter an agreement with this relationship, you know. The
Yeah.
entanglement. Mhm.
Absolutely. And even in terms of, that was one of my next questions, but I feel like we've already answered it a little bit. You've already
Yeah.
answered it in terms of, you know, what do you think can hold women back, right? In terms of, well, actually, maybe I'll shift the question. I think
Mhm.
one of the things you were talking about is very important that I hadn't even considered when I was writing up these questions, was this whole notion of mothering energy versus feminine energy, which is super, hopefully the women
Huge.
watching is eye-opening for them also. And like you said, sometimes you see your mother who's mothering you, maybe mothering also her husband, your father, or sometimes we just don't have role models at all, right? Or,
Yeah,
you know, so
exactly.
it's not on us necessarily in terms of it being anyone's fault or whatnot, but a lot of times we just don't have those feminine energy role models, or even those relationship skills. And even sometimes people with the best relationship might be doing it unintentionally, and maybe they're more intuitive or whatnot when it comes to
100%.
this. But
Yeah. And I always say like men are the head, but we're like the neck, and masculine energy responds to feminine energy. And it's so like when we had split too, it's just like things are always awkward with the transition of the kids and bringing them back and forth. And, you know, and, but then as soon as I had cleared up all the work and I forgave him and I took my responsibility, it's just like my energy changed. I didn't have to say anything, do anything, but then he started shifting. And
yeah,
it's been amazing, because now at gymnastics, and I would never have thought that, like we sit together, and I love his like fiance. I don't think they're engaged yet, but like I love her. She's amazing. And that this is something that you would want as a mom, is like the fact that the stepmom is someone that you actually like. And it's just like, it blows my mind. But again, I look at myself that like I go first. I
yeah,
changed, I forgave, I released things, and then now everything's responding to me. And so things are shifting, and that's it. Like you got to take that out of responsibility. But for the ladies, like mothering energy is so masculine energy. Think about it. Mother is the provider, the protector. You know what I mean? Like if you were on a hike right now and you ran into a cub, what do you think, mama bear? Like you're going to get your face ripped off. What is feminine energy about that mama? Nothing at all. Right. And so if you're a woman watching this and you have a little baby, you have kids, it's so important to understand, like, mother your children, but then you have to revert into feminine energy when you're with your man, right? Because your man, if you want that sexy masculine energy, like that comes at you and grabs your butt and kisses you, like you got to be in your feminine energy. You can't be mothering around. Pick up your socks. Don't put your shoes there. Like do this, do that. Did you take your vitamins? Like think about how
yeah.
that sounds, right? So that like that understanding that will shift things for a lot of women. But like we learn from our moms too. And we think also like, oh, mom is mothering dad and he loves her. So we also think that like,
Yeah.
if we're this way, this is how we receive love. And so it's kind of crazy to think, but like, we don't even love the way we want to love. We love because we think that's what we're going to get approval from our dad. You know, like a lot of us maybe also had a father where he was very masculine and it was all about like, don't cry, like, and you got his approval when you were very tough and in that proving energy. So you grow up older thinking, hey, the way I get respected with men is I'm going to be very masculine energy. And you get into this proving energy. And then you're wondering why you're attracting feminine energy guys that are not bringing the sexy masculine suave, and you know what I mean? Or they're getting very like repelled because a masculine energy man wants a feminine energy woman, not the one bossing around, proving energy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just even if the ladies listening to this can get that, that will start shifting things, because that was one of the biggest things that was like, whoa. And anytime I teach any of my clients, and I'm sure you had this too, they're like, what? And yes, like the mothering energy is the masculine energy. It's the provider. It's the protector.
What would you say is one thing that might be holding women back in terms of, let's talk about the manifesting part. That's kind of we talked about the dynamic together, but in terms of the manifestation aspect of it, you talked a little bit about, for a year, kind of focusing on yourself and your dreams and whatnot, and then being ready for it. Can you maybe dissect a little bit in terms of what does it mean to you what does it mean to you to manifest him?
Yeah. So when it comes to manifesting relationship, like don't get focused on the details, but get really clear about how you want to feel. So I always say, first, go woo yourself, right? Like woo yourself, like get self-care going to the max, start being in your feminine energy. And so something I used to do, and this is like why, like, I know I manifested Adam, is like, before I would go to bed, I would like hold myself in the way that I wanted a man to hold me. And like, even the way I hold my face, like I would do this at night and I would just picture that a man is laying beside me, holding my face. And I would visualize like a man bringing a coffee to my bed and to a tea. Like when I started dating Adam, he would hold me that way. He would hold my face the exact same way. Like it gives me goosebumps when I say this, and then he would bring me coffee to bed and make it for me. And so I would just focus, like, how do I want to feel in a relationship? And I want to feel when I see him in his big arms holding me, like not details of how he looks, just like feeling safe. You know what I mean? The way he touches me, right? And then I would so focus on constantly being in my feminine energy, like what makes me feminine, like wearing something silky, so feminine energy is very slow energy, right? So I would shave more slow. I would give myself more love, right? And then I would like close my eyes and picture like a man touching me that way too, and kissing me the way I want, right? And it's just like a lot of the things that I would visualize and I would feel into, like Adam is that, which is so wild. Even like, like the sex that we have, like I would think about the kind of sex that I would have with a man and the way I'd be like kissed to a T. Yeah. And so the biggest focus is like putting yourself first, wooing yourself, and then really like thinking about like, how do I want to feel in a man's presence? How do I want to be held? How do I want to be kissed? Focusing on the best kiss of your life and like really tapping into those feelings, right? And then learning how to lean back instead of like, going and chasing men around. Because do you ever notice, like, it's kind of funny, like in the animal kingdom, you have like the birds, the men in the animal kingdom, the masculine energy is always doing the chasing, and they have the colors, right? And then the birds, like the females are like the little brown birds just watching, and the men that are doing the dancing, the parading. And then you look at society and we have it all like reversed. It's the women putting on the colors and the makeup and the dancing and the chasing the men and the leaning in, right? Which is very masculine energy. And then they're wondering why men are so lazy. Why are men not texting me? Because you're the one doing the texting, the setting up the dates. You're doing all the dancing around, wooing the men. And the thing is, we disconnect from masculine energy when we're doing the wooing. What works is like being in your feminine energy and actually kind of leaning back. Like that's feminine energy, like leaning back a little bit and being like just in your magnetism. Like I have like confident and powerful, and like letting him come to you. But most women, they're chasing men around and dancing for them. Like I have like clients, I'll be like, yeah, I'm trying to set up a date. And I'm like, let him do that. You're the one asking for masculine energy. Then you got to lean back and let him take the lead. And that's what really ultimately makes a man feel really masculine, when he is the one that's leading, when he is the one leaning in, not when you're chasing him around.
Let him achieve.
And then women are like, why do I have to always do everything? And he never gets me flowers. And I have to set up the dates and I have to texting. I'm like, because you're doing all the proving energy. You're leaning in. And if you want masculine energy to come in, you need to lean back. Woo yourself. You woo yourself in masculine presence. It's like magic. And they're just so pulled to you. But chasing him around is why you got to keep chasing him.
Yeah. And I feel like a couple of things that came up for me as I was listening to you to share that. Well, number one, I love the way you were talking about manifesting from more of a feeling state. I love the term wooing yourself, but because a lot of times, and I wonder too, if it's part of kind of this masculine energy world we're in, or even just for high achieving women, right? Those of us who have businesses and we're used to, we're doing stuff, we're trying to achieve results and achieve goals. And a lot of times, in love, some women might have kind of, that checklist. And you're like looking for a man and trying to check off the boxes, when really it's about feeling into it. What does what's that emotional energy or response to the love that you want, that you desire.
Yeah, I always say, even in manifestation, don't focus on the details. First of all, you don't want to be surprised. Like I always say, it's
Yeah.
gonna be better than I can imagine. The best has yet to come. Like that's my favorite mottos. But like I always tell my clients, just focus on what it feels like instead of like even a money goal. I'm like, what would it feel like to have like a 6-figure month? Like you close your, how would you celebrate? Like visualize you the way you're celebrating. How do you feel? What are you gonna buy? Like that's the stuff, not a money goal. And same
Yeah.
with thing relationship is like he's got to be this, but is that what you want to feel like? Because in a relationship, it's all about feelings. How do you want to be touched? How do you want to be kissed? You know what I mean? How do you want him to hold your face? That's all I focus on. Like I would hold my body and I would just visualize a man holding me. And it's like to a T, that's the way that Adam holds me. And I would picture like, what else do I want from a man? I want a man that comes and brings me my favorite coffee in the morning, you know what I mean? And touches my legs. And I would visualize the way he would look at me, you know, and that's what I focus on, the feelings. The checklist, what is a checklist? That doesn't mean they're going to have the best relationship just because he's good on paper. It has nothing to do with that. So stop looking at looks. You know, you can visualize like if you want to look up at a man, like it's things like that. But like the details don't matter. It's what do you want to feel like?
The other aspect of what you were saying that I want to bring up again is this whole idea of, you were comparing us to the animal kingdom. And I feel like a lot of times, and even for myself, right, I'm talking about personal experience here, but, I felt like some of these maybe feminine energy concepts were a little bit old fashioned. And I felt I was, progressive and ambitious and, also in corporate world and whatnot and building my business. I felt like it was a little bit old fashioned for me. But then when I started embracing it, understanding there were just some universal laws out there, and the more you can just flow and work with them, the better your outcome's going to be at the end of the day. So
and it's all about what you want, right? Like there's some women, like it's just like, get clear. Do you, because like you can be in a masculine feminine relationship and you can be the masculine energy if that's what you want.
right.
Because some women are very high achieving and they want that. I want to be the boss. Okay, then you understand that your man is going to be the feminine energy. And if that's okay, and you like the softness of him and you like the fact that he does things for you, perfect. But if you're telling me you're an ambitious woman, but you also want the masculine Rico Suave to come in, you got to lean back. Like it's like polar opposites, like they have to attract that way. So you got to learn how to lean back. And it's hard for overachieving because it's just like we need to do something and we want things on our timeline. And with manifestations, the same thing, just like relationships. It's like it's not on your timeline. It's when it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And trust is a lot of feminine energy. It's like leaning back and trusting the divine timing, right? And then will come, but you can't go out doing it and chasing it because that's not you trusting.
Yeah. And even for yourself, like you were talking about being really clear in terms of what you desire. And if you're more the masculine energy, to accept that he might fall into his feminine. But I think it's also making sure that whether or not he wants to be in his feminine energy too, because a bit earlier you alluded to the idea of pushing men away, and unless you're really sure that your man wants to be in his feminine energy state, then you risk maybe repelling or pushing him unintentionally away. So
yeah, and you even see it in same-sex gender relationship. One person takes on more of the feminine energy, one takes on the masculine energy. So it's just like get really clear with yourself. Do you want a feminine, soft, like sensual man? Like they exist and some women love that. But if you don't, then if you want your masculine man to lean in, you need to lean back. You need to start understanding the art form of leaning back and being in your feminine.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you shared a lot of wonderful tips so far, but maybe either if you have a different one or if you want to reiterate one, what's one piece of advice or one thing you can encourage women to start doing today to manifest their dream man or to get back into that feminine energy? What's your favorite tip or your number one tip?
For sure. So my favorite tip was going to be what we've already talked about. And it's just like, love yourself. Like self-love is the key to all love. I say it all the time, like woo yourself, love yourself, because something that masculine energy is so drawn to is the woman who's confident and she's leaned back and it's just like this magnetism that you have. And it comes from like, I love myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's like kind of like walking across a room naked in confidence, but you're not doing it to prove anything. You're not doing it because he's looking, but you're walking across the room because you feel so confident, sexy in your own body. And if he happens to look, he happens to look, but you don't even do it for him. You do it for you. You do it for you. And masculine energy is so magnetized. So woo yourself, self-love, self-care is the key to all love. And the second thing I would look at too is like, if you are trying to manifest a relationship, look at your past coding. look at the kind of beliefs you have, right? Because a lot of women have a hard time attracting a man, but they're not really looking at the fact that their limiting beliefs are still that men are not good and men are cheaters. Like a lot of that comes up when I work with clients, like they're ready, they're in their feminine, but they still have these stories, right? So then like, I would say like, do some forgiveness work, You got to release those hostages from your past, and then look at, what do you really think of men? Do you believe that men are good? Do you believe that you can have a man that woos you and loves you unconditionally? Because if there's something that's like, I still think men cheat, or I still think men are pig, that's what's holding you back, like those energetic blocks. So really get clear and do some healing work. This is why inner work is like, no one wants to hear this, but it's like deep dive. Like, what do you believe about men?
Yeah, so less glamorous stuff, but it's like the powerful deep stuff, right?
In the past coding, right? Like, it's just like that inner child stuff is going to keep coming up until you really look at it, right? So woo yourself, get into your feminine energy, self-care, self-love, and then really look at, what are my beliefs about men? What about my beliefs about relationships? Because you and I, before we hopped on this call, we talked about blending our families and how I used to be told like, oh, it's going to be so hard. And everyone's like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not going to listen to that. Don't take advice from people who don't have what you want. Right. But then the same thing with relationships. Right. So like, check in with yourself. What do I believe about relationship? Do I actually believe that an amazing, incredible, long, like successful relationship is possible? And if there's like any kind of like, and just check in with your feelings, if there's any like, no, because my mom and dad had a horrible one. And my mom was with all these other guys that didn't work out. My dad hasn't been able to be successful. My aunts, everywhere I looked, hasn't. So this is where you need to do some inner work. And something that I always suggest to people is like, get around expanders. And expanders are people who are having what you want. So instead of focusing on like all the evidence that you have of people not having successful relationships, go look, and you're on social media and you can find people who have successful relationships like you and I, right? And pay attention to people that are telling you that actually, no, it's not true that relationships are hard. I don't believe in that. And I've never said that. Me and Adam, have we had our like little riffs? Yeah, for sure. But we've never yelled at each other. We've never called each other name. We've been together for 2.5 years. Like, if there's something that comes up, we sit down and we communicate, right? So communication is really important. But relationships are hard. We talking about like, we kiss and make out the same way we have since first date. Like, people was like, oh, the chemistry and butterflies die after 6 months. Not for us. And me and him talk about this, that we're going to keep at this. And me and Adam have like we want to set a role model example for other people, that relationships get to be sexy and amazing and magical. And if things come up, like, we're going to communicate through it, but they're not hard. So the two things to look at is really like, what do you think about men? And then what do you really think about relationships? Do you in your heart of heart believe that an amazing, long, successful relationship is possible? And if there's any like, no, because I have this evidence, this, and then it's like, okay, I need to get out of this environment and I need to go find expanders. I need to go and be around people who have successful relationship, who say that it is effortless and there's magic, and start hanging around those people and listening to those people. You're going to start rewiring those subconscious beliefs. But those are the things that really do stop us. It's just our feelings about it's not possible.
No, that's amazing. And I'm going to throw you another loop here.
Go.
But I feel like maybe we answered it, but I just want to call it out because I think it's important. It's a good question, actually. I'm just thinking about it now. But are you still manifesting things for your relationship? Do you still, to this day, even after having gotten Adam, are you still manifesting?
Yeah, 100%. Like, before I go to bed, that's one of my best times to like manifest, because I believe we marinate on things at nighttime. So there's a little code for you guys for manifesting. Best time to manifest things and feel into things right before bed, because you'll marinate on it. But I think about like our wedding. Like, honestly, right now I'm visualizing, because we haven't started planning the wedding. We just because like there's still crazy things happening in the world, and we kind of want to like get married somewhere like destination wedding. But when I think about it, I'm thinking about like me walking down the aisle and the way he's looking at me. And I'm thinking like the night of, and the way he's touching me, and the way we're going to make love, like, and the way that where we are. And then I think about like, even just in the future, like the travels we're going to take together when he's like retired and we can go travel, like, so that our relationship keeps getting better and better and growing. Right. And like, that's what I keep focusing on. Right. Not like, it's not going to last. Butterflies go away. Are you kidding me? Like, we get excited to see each other every day. Like, still.
Yeah, it
So
never stops. I love that.
no, it doesn't. No, don't
Which is why
listen to
I'm
other
growing old.
people.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the biggest advice I tell people all the time is like, stop taking advice from people who don't have what you want. Like, I find like, it's funny, like you see a woman asking relationship advice from their friend who has not been able to have one successful relationship or has dated like 2 guys, but like, yeah, let's take relationship advice from her, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no, you got to get around people who are succeeding, who are telling you it gets to be easy and effortless.
Absolutely. This was so amazing. Like, I can't believe all the value you shared in this recording with us today.
I'm so
Thank
excited.
you
I love
so
stuff like,
much. And I'm
yeah.
sure there's going to be tons of women who want to know where they can find you, what you have going on. So let us know where are you on the interwebs and what do you have going on right now?
Okay, so on Instagram, I'm at Alina Grayson Coaching, so you guys can find me there. On Facebook, it's just Alina Grayson, and then I'm on LinkedIn as well. But I'm on YouTube. I just started a YouTube channel, so if anyone wanted to listen to some masterclasses with some free value, you guys can go on there. It's just Alina Grayson. Then I have the High Performer Coaching Community, which is the Facebook group, which is also full of a guide section of like tons of masterclasses you guys can binge on. But yeah, like Instagram or Facebook, I'm always there every day, adding little things and little codes. But yeah.
Awesome. And I think you have Goddess Code going on right now. You were talking about feminine energy, and this is a program that dives deep into that.
Yes. Yeah. So we're like in the middle of that right now. And so that's like a 4-week program. And it's funny because it's like, we get into the fun feminine magic and I talk about the art of receiving and everything like that. But like a big chunk of that program is like that inner work. And it's really looking at our coding because, you know, and you know this too, the biggest things that a romantic relationship will pull out of you is all your inner wounded child stuff, your defense mechanisms, you know, all those things you don't like about each other where you punish people and you silent treatment men or you lash out or you stonewall, all that stuff. That's what we talk a lot about. And those are things that we picked up from our parents, but that's the stuff that causes so much damage in our relationship. And we hear this all the time. Communication is everything, but we have a hard time communicating when we get triggered with our inner wounded child who comes up with a defense mechanism. I'm going to walk away from you. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to give you silent treatment. I'm going to take sex away from you. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to blame you. And that is that stuff that constantly comes up because we're not doing the inner work and we're not like really healing that. And it's like, it's never going to go away, but it's understanding, oh my God, I get really triggered. Why is this? Where did I learn this? Where did I pick this up? And how do I overcome this right now so that I can communicate with my partner? And emotional intelligence, obviously. So that program is a huge chunk about our emotional intelligence because that is everything in a relationship. It's our emotions that make us act in ways that we regret. And the thing is I'll tell you with masculine energy, like the biggest thing a man desires is to feel safe with a woman. The sexiest thing about a woman is a woman's ability to handle her emotions. The second, and I'll tell you ladies right now, the second you silent treatment or you say things like, I'm leaving you, right there, that creates such a wound in your relationship because for men, the hardest thing is for them is being in a relationship where they don't feel safe anymore, you know, and men get manipulated a lot. And the shame and guilt of all that is very hard for a man. So I always say to women, like, if you're going to say that, you might as well leave because that's going to be very hard to work through after. Once a man feels very unsafe with you and your emotions, it's so repelling. So ladies, work on your emotional intelligence. If you know your defense mechanisms, I would look at that. Like, when I get triggered, how do I react? Is it me stonewalling, putting my head in the sand, walking away, silent treatment? That stuff makes a man feel so unsafe. So look at that and start to kind of catch it in a moment because triggers responses are kind of hard, but like start catching that in a moment and deciding to be like, I need time out and go and process your emotions because when emotions are high, intelligence is low. When your emotions are so high, there's no logic in your brain. Nothing that's going to come out of your mouth is going to be good for the relationship. So do the inner work. When you're emotional around your men, before you say something or walk away, just say, babe, I'm triggered right now. I'm not feeling good. I need to go process my emotions and I will come back and we can have this conversation. Because if you give yourself space to go process your emotions, I'm telling you the logical part of your brain will come back because emotions are usually like 90 seconds, but a little bit longer. But like, if you let the emotions be processed in your body, the clarity will come through. And this is where I say the goddess will come through with the wisdom of what you need to say and how to handle it. But men want to feel safe. And the more you work on your emotional intelligence, the more your man will love the shit out of you.
Oh my God,
Sorry, I can say
100%.
that word, but that your man will love you, because being
Yeah,
unstable is just the hardest thing for a man. Yeah.
totally, totally. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much again.